Everyone for coming to the 11th Atlanta African-Centered Freethinkers Forum. We always start out pretty much slowly, but people do trickle in. It's a beautiful day, so I'm anticipating a nice and moderate turnout. I want to thank Sister Kathy for allowing us to use her place again. This is the 11th forum, and we do this twice a year. So pretty much we've been doing this for a little over 5 years. It's been quite an interesting journey. I've learned quite a bit. And we're now going to be dealing on a different level of clarity. The Freethinkers Forum is an organization that deals with topics that are not popular in the black community. The reason we have these forums is because we look at our history and the socialization that has happened to our people all over the world, namely through religious indoctrination and its different forms. This topic we'll be talking about today will be conspiracy theories. Are they just another form of religion? Looking at the history of black people, there's been an upsurge in conspiracies. And I think it started in 1958 with the Tuskegee experiment, where we all know about in Tuskegee. There was this experimentation where they injected syphilis to black men and had them go out in the population so they can examine this. Now, that actually happened, but it's documented. There's no conspiracy around it. In fact, a few years ago, they interviewed a survivor of this to say this happened to them. So that's not a conspiracy. However, people have used that and say, well, because the government or an organization has done this, this else, whatever else I'm telling you is going on, is also a conspiracy. And again, because black people, for the most part, we don't control the resources to really verify most of these things, we believe that.
So let's talk about what a theory is. Well, in science, scientific theory is a well-substantiated explanation of some aspect of the natural world based on a body of facts that have been repeatedly confirmed through observation and experiment. Such fact-supported theories are not guesses, but reliable accounts of the real world. Now, you've seen both words, conspiracy and theory. They actually have validity in terms. Here's what my brother and other individuals suffer from in society. It's called groupthink. So what does that mean? Groupthink is a psychological phenomenon that occurs within a group of people in which the desire for harmony and conformity results in an irrational dysfunctional decision-making outcome. And what does that mean? Group members try to minimize conflict and reach a consensus decision without critical evaluation of alternative viewpoints by actively suppressing dissenting viewpoints and by isolating themselves from outside influences. So have you ever been involved with a group and the group leader or one of the group members say, this is the way it is, brother, this is how this goes? And because you may have respect for that brother or that sister, you won't argue with it. You just go along to get along, as my mom would say. But that produces a mentality which is called groupthink.
As with religions, conspiracy theory tends to have the equivalent of a priesthood. priests or teachers, and they guard people's faith. And they work to sustain this common understanding amongst the congregation. Likewise with conspiracy theories. They make these videos, they write these books, and they want to maintain an audience that are always paranoid, always feeling fearful that the government or a small group of organizations are out here causing havoc and social calamity. I'd like to turn the mic over to Mr. Mike Scott. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you, Brother Skia, Brother Kwame. The brother raised some very interesting points. What I would like to do is counter the argument, obviously, and open up the debate based on that. But before I get started with that, the idea that this particular discussion has no value, I hope to show you and to prove to you that it does. That not only does it have credence, but it also has value in the sense of how we conduct ourselves in society and how we can protect ourselves from certain aspects of society. A lot of you may know who this brother is here, Dr. John Henry Clark. Says powerful people cannot afford to educate people that they oppress. Because once you truly are educated or truly educate, you will not ask for power, you will take it. And I thought that was a profound statement to start this presentation with. All right. So in criminal law, a conspiracy is an agreement between two or more persons to commit a crime at some future time or sometime in the future. In criminal law, and in some countries, or for some conspiracies, they may require that at least one of the overt acts must also have been undertaken in furtherance of the agreement which will constitute an actual offense. In other words, to put it in my own language, the term conspiracy is actual a criminal law. The same way a law of theft, the same way the law is a law against murder, it's a law against stealing. Conspiracy is an actual law that appears on the books. So it's not something that's felonious or just thought up. It exists in society, and we have laws to prevent it. This is an interesting statistic. The JFK conspiracy. A majority of Americans still believe that JFK his murder was a part of a conspiracy, that it was not conducted by a lone gunman. And if you look at this line, in 1963 it was around 52%, from 63 to 67. That number actually increased and dipped, but it never got down to 50 from the original date or around the date of the execution or the assassination. And it consistently shows that Americans feel that there were others involved in the murder of President John F. Kennedy.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
From 1932 to 1972, nearly 400 black American men went untreated for syphilis in southern Alabama. The United States Public Health Service told these men they had been cured, lying in order to learn more about the effect of syphilis on African Americans. Physicians lied to their patients, who inevitably died as a result of the infection, to make medical advancements in the field of venereal disease. Commonly known as bad blood, syphilis could easily be cured by a dosage of penicillin. However, subjects involved in the study were banned from ingesting the cure and were told that because they were government patients, they were getting a different type of treatment. This atrocious study tested the limits of research and proved that scientists overlooked the deaths of hundreds of black American men in order to make medical discoveries. Not only was this study flawed in execution, but the motivation was flawed as well. The entire study was completely racially motivated. The whole reason that the Public Health Service allowed this experiment was because the subjects were African Americans. Had it been the dominant race that was implicated in this type of human experimentation, it can only be assumed that the doctors would have acted with more professional medical ethics than they did in Tuskegee. An important aspect to keep in mind is that this experiment occurred in a society where racist ideology perpetuated the inferiority of African Americans, and the process of this study is no different.
FBI's COINTELPRO. This is a document from the FBI identifying the agency or the program, counterintelligence program, for black nationalist hate groups is how they label it. And if you read this document, it specifically says, they use a religious term. This is how serious they were. They must stop the rise of a black messiah. Anyone that would unite black people, unite organizations, right, of like minds to come together to get us out of our condition. This did not just go on for 10 years, for 5 years. This started in the 20s with Marcus Garvey, headed by J. Edgar Hoover, and it extended all the way up into the 90s with Geronimo Pratt. Come on, y'all, talk to me. This was a real program. And this was a conspiracy theory. Because in our community, black folks just can't get along. We just can't organize. We just can't get our act together. We're just screw-ups. No. There was a concerted effort by the United States government over a period of about 60 years to break every organization that we had, up to including assassination of our leaders. Conspiracy theories.
Those people who believe that the government did that to knock off millions of black people, the government is putting things in your community, just targeting you only within a certain block, just to come and get rid of you. Those are the conspiracies that I'm concerned about.
When these things are happening to you, you know it's not an accident. You know it's not random. We knew at the time there was a conspiracy. We knew it was planned. We knew it was coordinated. We just had no idea how sophisticated the plan or how sophisticated the coordination was.
This just in, you were looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
Yeah, now remember, oh my God. That looks like a second plane. I didn't see a plane go in. That just exploded. I just saw another plane coming in from the side. You did? That was out. Yes, and that's the second explosion. You can see the plane come in just from the right-hand side of the screen. So this looks like it is some sort of a concerted effort to attack the World Trade Center.
I thought that my office was promised a written response to my question regarding the 4 war games on September 11th. I have not yet received that response, but would like for you to respond to the questions that I've put to you today, and then I do expect the written response to my previous question, hopefully by the end of the week.
So what if I told you that the BBC reported that some of the hijackers are still alive? Think about that. 19 hijackers crashed in the buildings, killed themselves and all the passengers, and they are still alive.
The USS Liberty was then attacked by 3 Israeli torpedo boats bearing Israeli flags. The torpedo gunboats opened fire with high-caliber machine guns and launched torpedoes. A single torpedo struck the ship, blowing a hole in both sides, entering the ship and leaving a 30-foot exit hole when it exploded.
All right, that concludes my portion. It's been more than an hour, but I wanted to end it with this statement here. Conspiracy theorists is nothing more than a derogatory title used to dismiss critical thinking. So think for yourself.
We have a right to be suspicious of Europeans in general. I ain't say all. They have proven to us where it is in full effect.
Malcolm X, JFK, Martin Luther King, all these individuals were targets of
The thing about the tobacco, I don't think it's tobacco that's killing people, it's the nicotine.
Eugenics, for instance. We know that Bill Gates' father founded Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
So we know that he had a bioweapons lab in Sierra Leone.
Okay, let me ask you a question.
Where the breakout jumped off.
I got that.
When you establish that they are incapable and that they themselves
are so easily fooled into a strategic plan that is put into place, then you're saying that it was inevitable for them to fall into that plan. That is the implication, and that is the suggestion.
That we are psychologically damaged from this experience.
They never had to conspire. They went straight at us. They don't try to trick us.
That's my point. Those people who believe that the government did that to knock off millions of black people, the government is putting things in your community, just targeting you only within a certain block, just to come and get rid of you. Those are the conspiracies that I'm
Everything
concerned
that you say is a conspiracy. It's not necessarily a conspiracy. There are, however, conspiracies that do exist, and I know, like this brother said, from experience. I have been in this country all my life, and I know what has happened here. And I know they don't come out and tell you that if you vote, if a black female goes into the hospital, she's going to come out without her reproductive organs. They don't tell you that. They just do it. That is a conspiracy.
Do they ever mention the Jewish community and their bombings? No, you only hear about Islamic extremists blowing up stuff. But if you get a context of history from where it starts, you can get a better understanding of what's going on.
An American president who's based his political career on patriotism sells weapons to a hostile nation and uses cash to fund terrorists.
I don't remember.
It's a conspiracy theory.
Does anybody know how much heroin since 2001 comes out of Afghanistan now?
Now that the U.S. has been there?
They had an increase since the U.S. has been there of 61%.
But now we get an idea of some of the stuff that's circulating and how people can believe certain conspiracies, certain theories, things that may actually happen, may not happen.
I want you to know that this effort on my part was to show you that critical thinking is important. And that oftentimes what the mainstream tells us is what actually happened is not the case. Think for yourself, do your research, and get the information on your own. That is the best source.